Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Rucker Report. I'm your humble host, JD Rucker. It's brought to you on the GK Podcast Network, GateKeepersOnline.com, where I've been blessed to become a part of this wonderful family of faithful, honest conservatives who are just wanting to spread the word about everything. Unfortunately, that everything right now is one thing, the coronavirus. And so for this being episode 2, I am unfortunately going to be talking about it again, but hopefully this will be a variation, or at least an angle that you haven't heard much about lately. And when I say hopefully, I actually hope that you have. I hope that you become aware of it, because it is important to me. It is even more important than the two primary things that the news and talking heads in mainstream media have been talking about, namely the effects of the coronavirus as a disease, the spread, the rapid outbreaking of this disease across the United States, around the world, especially in places like New York, here in California where I am, Washington, Minnesota, or Michigan, I think it was actually Michigan, that's had it pretty bad lately, and it's killing people. Now granted, most of those people that are dying are either older or have pre-existing health conditions, or both. But still, it's killing young, healthy people as well. Just not nearly as many of them. So this is a real concern, and it's understandable that people would be scared. It's understandable that people would be taking precautions, and that the news would be covering it. The second obvious, call it the 8,000-pound elephant in the room, is the economic impact of this disease. It is tremendous. We've never seen anything like it. Thank the Lord the economy was strong just prior to this hitting, because if it wasn't, if we were already in the midst of a downturn or a recession, things could have been extraordinarily bad, even worse than they are today. And they are bad now. I mean, millions of people are out of work. Businesses are shuttered. Some of them are going to be closing down. Some of them will not return, even after the coronavirus scare is over. And so there is a lot of economic turmoil, and that is rightly being covered by the mainstream media. What's not being covered nearly as much is what I consider to be a much bigger threat than anything we're facing from the disease itself or the economic turmoil. Those things are going to pass, okay? And I'll cover that shortly. But what will not pass, if we don't stop it very soon, is the rising authoritarianism across the country. Thank God, with President Trump, he's pushing against it. It's funny that he came into office, and so many people were saying that he was going to be this tyrant, this fascist, this authoritarian dictator, and he's just proven that he's the exact opposite. In many ways, he just doesn't want government to get involved with very much at all. He's trying to cut bureaucracy, cut red tape, make things easier, get government out of the way, at least the federal government. And so from that perspective, he's remained consistent in that regard as much as he can, as far as the coronavirus is concerned. So that's great. But unfortunately, at other levels of government, local cities, local areas, communities, cities, counties, states, there are plenty of people who are pushing authoritarian ideas. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how to fight it. Let me reduce my face from the screen. Let's first look at the GK Podcast Network. This is the home of this video and other videos, other podcasts, other people. Jeff Dornik, Sam Jones. You got Dustin Faulkner. There was a great interview with Jerry Wayne the other day that really needs much more attention, because Jerry Wayne, I think he needs more attention. Yes, he's known as the Joe Biden union guy that was defending the Second Amendment, but I think there's more to him. We'll see. We will see. We'll learn more about him in the near future. But anyway, go visit GateKeepersOnline.com and see the latest in good old-fashioned talk. Great podcasts on this channel. I love it. And then there's my site, Rucker Report, and OQReport.com. And we'll be talking a lot about that today, because obviously as a news outlet, we have been covering the coronavirus quite thoroughly. We'll be talking about the authoritarian aspect of it here shortly. But first, let's talk about this article posted yesterday by Dr. Ted Noel, one of our esteemed writers, who is he knows what he's talking about. He says you have to ask the right question about the coronavirus, and he is absolutely correct. We aren't asking the right questions. In many ways, not just Americans, but politicians, business leaders, it's ready, fire, aim. I mean, it's not, we're not doing things in the correct order. We are reacting, and there is a big, gigantic rush to get stuff done. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff that's happening isn't the right stuff, I'll talk about examples of that later, but I want to get down to a paragraph that really, really encompasses what Dr. Ted Noel was saying. He says, if we ask the right questions, we'll find the horrid economic effects of futile lockdowns and business closures are neither necessary nor effective. As South Korea found, people with Wuhan flu need to be isolated, and people who are already sick need to protect themselves from Wuhan flu. It's about taking care of yourself. That's called personal responsibility. And that is, at the end of the day, that's America. That's what we were built on. That's what we espouse as conservatives and patriots. Taking personal responsibility. There's going to be idiots in this world, okay? Period. There's going to be the guys going on Periscope and licking bottles of hand sanitizer and putting them back on shelves at stores. There's going to be, the kid down in Florida who's like, oh yeah, man, I've been planning this trip for 2 or 3 months. If I get the coronavirus, so be it, man, but I'm here to party. Terrible accent. He didn't sound anything like that, but he did say those words. Now, keep in mind, he has come out lately, and he's actually apologized for it. I didn't see that myself. I saw it on Twitter, so you know what they say about what you see on Twitter. It may or may not be real, and probably isn't, but at least that one sounded pretty credible. I think he did actually, he did apologize. Good for him. Damage done. So, yeah, we need to start asking the right questions, and one of those questions we need to ask is, are the things that we're doing, what we're doing as individuals, as communities, as a nation, are we doing what's actually necessary to stop this coronavirus from spreading to an unfortunate number of people? I would say that right now it's already pretty bad, especially in places like New York. But can we take it too far? And can we make it to where the remedy is actually worse than the ailment itself? We will see. Time will tell. Let's move on to this. This is a good friend, Mindy Robinson, running for Congress in Nevada, and she tweeted out, "I would gladly quarantine myself to save the sick and elderly." Wholeheartedly agree with that. But I'm watching the Dems abusively use this situation to make themselves richer, while stripping us of our rights and watching hardworking people lose their livelihoods. Something doesn't feel right about all this. She's onto something there. Now, I don't agree that Democrats are trying to make themselves richer as a result of this. Are there some? Sure. There's Republicans too that are doing that. There's all kinds of people that see the coronavirus as an opportunity, whether it's to drive down the stock market so they can right back up to the top again, in a few months, years, whether it's taking advantage. You got people out there that are trying to sell hand sanitizer on eBay or whatever. Yes, there's going to be people that will exploit this for money. But I think the bigger challenge, especially when it comes to Democrats, the Democratic politicians, is exploiting this in a way that gives them more power. And I'm not talking about just them as individuals. I'm talking about them as in, the quote-unquote ruling class, consolidating government control, and perhaps most importantly, making us dependent on government, making as many people beholden to government as possible. That, I think, is really more of the end game. That's what's being exploited here. As I cough, gosh, I should get tested. No, I'm fine. I've been isolated. Fear not, there will be an episode 3, Lord willing. But an example of this, what I consider to be the Democrats' attempt to use this, came in I'm going to have to play this because this was in many ways, it was hilarious. I hate to admit it. If you're watching this, you are going to be blessed with a very funny show. If you're hearing it, you're just going to hear some shrill remarks from from our favorite Congresswoman from New York, Alexandria Cortes, when she was fighting the coronavirus relief bill. She was talking about how it was going to really affect. Let's just play it so you can hear her for yourself. Hopefully you can hear this.
I represent one of the hardest hit communities in the hardest hit city in this country, Queens, New York. 13 dead in a night in Elmhurst Hospital alone. Our community's reality is this country's future if we don't do anything. Hospital workers do not have protective equipment. We don't have the necessary ventilators, but we have to go into this vote eyes wide open. What did the Senate majority fight for? One of the largest corporate bailouts with as few strings as possible in American history. Shameful. The greed of that fight is wrong for crumbs for our families. And the option that we have is to either let them suffer with nothing or to allow this greed and billions of dollars, which will be leveraged into trillions of dollars, to contribute to the largest income inequality gap in our future.
Let's listen to that part again.
The income inequality gap in our future.
There's the key phrase.
To contribute to the largest income inequality gap in our future. There should be shame about what was fought for in this bill and the choices that we have to make.
Dum dum dum. Yes. So break this down briefly because it really is nonsense. Essentially, what the Congresswoman is saying is that because there is a corporate portion of the bailout, we were talking, I haven't seen the latest numbers, but I think it was somewhere in the $500 billion range of corporate loans, bailouts, money that's going to go to businesses, large and small. Some of it will be loans, others will be actually just essentially, called loans, but they'll never be paid back. What they do, though, is they do two important things, one good, one bad. The good thing is this helps them stay alive. And in many ways, it's sad when we have people like AOC out there bad-mouthing that aspect of it because, let's face it, it's not... this isn't like, oh, thank you for the bailout, now let me go buy myself another jet. No, in many cases, I would say the vast majority of cases, this is what's going to allow people to have jobs when the coronavirus dust settles. Now, that's not all of them. There's going to be businesses, corporations that don't need it to take advantage of it. There's going to be businesses and corporations that maybe need it and squander it, and people still lose their jobs. This isn't going to be universally good. I'd be happy if 50% of it was good, but if 50% of it is good, that means that there are literally millions of Americans who get to keep their jobs when everything is said and done. So no, this isn't contributing to income inequality gap, okay? Sorry, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, but on the surface it can. It can seem like that. It's like, why are we giving money to these rich people, these billionaires, these big businesses? Why are they getting the money? Why is the money coming directly to us? The answer is because if the money goes directly to people and they lose their job, guess what happens? That money will keep having to go directly to people and directly to people and directly to people. People will become beholden to government. They will become dependent on it, which is the goal for a lot of these people, especially people, democratic socialists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She does picture an America in which the government essentially owns everything, and we are subjects. There's no other way to put it. You can fluff it up the way that they like to say that it's about income equality and all this other stuff. Well, guess what? That income equality means, we'll be equally poor and destitute and beholden to government. But it isn't even people like that. They're not the ones that worry me the most. It's, what AOC does. She doesn't have, she and her Justice Democrats, they do not have the pull just yet to be able to get their radical ideas, turn them into law. And even if they did, they don't have Bernie Sanders as their president who would actually potentially sign them into law. So we're not there yet. That's a fight for 2024, 2028. Eventually we are going to have to shut it down. We're going to have to stop this leftward lurch of the Democratic Party. And to do that, we're going to have to face head-to-head, one-on-one, an actual Democratic socialist. It won't be Bernie Sanders. He's going to be in his 80s by the time the next election comes around. and I don't want to say it won't be. I guess it technically could be, but more likely it's going to be some new Bernie. The new, improved, better Bernie is going to come around. Maybe it'll be AOC. I think she might actually be old enough to run for president come in 2024. We'll see. She'll be 34, I think, at that point. So she'll be a year off, but she'll still be able to. I don't know how. I think she could actually run as long as she's 35 before Inauguration Day. Some constitutional scholar can reach out to me and tell me that I am wrong or right. Yeah, if I'm right. So there's that. The thing that scares me more, though, than people like AOC is it's mayors, it's governors, it's people, state legislators, people at lower levels, city councils. These are the people that can start and will start, and in many cases have started, issuing authoritarian mandates on the people. I tweeted earlier, was it last night? Yeah, late last night. The scariest thing about the coronavirus isn't the disease itself. Most can be responsible and stay safe, and I do believe that. I think that the vast majority of Americans can and will and do practice social distancing. They're staying home. They're doing what they can. Catching the coronavirus is the least of their concerns right now, and there are many. Economy is probably their bigger concern, but that's not even the biggest fear either, because over time we will recover. That's going to happen. If it doesn't, then, and we do sink, then there's really, whatever the virus does will be child's play compared to America as an economic demonstrating economic weakness, I guess is the best way to put it, because we have the world reserve currency, and we also have the world's debt. And if the only thing that's holding back the quote-unquote wolves is the fact that because we are economically strong, we can kind of do whatever we want. I hate to say it, I hate to put it like that, but other countries can't challenge us. But if we are weakened more so than other countries as a result of the coronavirus, then there will be a collapse that's felt worldwide. And if there is a collapse felt worldwide, somebody's going to have to fill the void. And chances are it won't be us. It could be China. Sure, I think they're already setting that up with their fake numbers, pretending like nobody's getting sick over there anymore. I'll talk about that at a different show. That don't even get me started. No, the scariest thing is authoritarianism at every level of government. Again, I mentioned that the federal government is doing pretty well at not imposing it, but they will. There's going to be a whatever you want to call it, a coronavirus or a pandemic protection act of 2021 or even 2020. Something that basically says, never again. We are never going to have to face anything like this again because we're going to be prepared. We're going to have ventilators on every corner, and testing is going to be, we're going to open up a pandemic world workshop and globalize it, and whatever. There's going to be a lot of turmoil that comes from that eventually. But right now, so far, the federal government has been the least of our concerns. What's a bigger concern? Local governments, state governments, city governments. They have been, many of them, not all of them, but many of them have been, frankly, overreacting. And that's going to turn into some crazy things. You look over at New Jersey, Phil Murphy, governor of New Jersey, basically made it impossible to buy guns there right now. Other states are following suit. I get it, but why? Why would you take away our right to self-defense? Why would you make it harder for us to get guns when that doesn't really affect the criminals? That's also a topic for another day. Let's cut to this. This is I said that I was going to skip it, but I'm not. I do want to go ahead and bring this up because the numbers coming out of China, they're ridiculous. They're wrong. They are lies, flat out lies. There's no other way to put it. They're claiming that there were no new domestic infections, and only 4 total new infections, and all 4 of them came from foreign contamination, including one from the United States. That's the storyline from the Chinese Communist Party right now. That is a lie, and unfortunately, American mainstream media, instead of seeking the truth, they're echoing the lie from the Chinese Communist Party. Here is Scott Gottlieb, MD, a doctor, so apparently he knows what he's talking about, except in this case where he doesn't. In China, no province outside of Hubei ever had more than 1,500 confirmed cases of COVID-19. In America, there are now 15 states with more than 1,500 diagnosed cases of COVID-19. Dr. Gottlieb, I am sorry to be the one to inform you of this, but the numbers coming out of China are a lie. After years, let's look at. There's an interesting fact. I don't have the article called up. I wasn't going to talk about it, but we should. There was an article last week that noted, basically, for those who aren't familiar, China is dependent on smartphones, on mobile phones, mobile devices. Everybody has them. They have to, because without them, that's how they have access to their Social Security. That's how they have access to their bank accounts. That's how you cannot board a train without the right app. You cannot go anywhere without the right app. There are places in China where you cannot get toilet paper. I am not kidding. You have to use your mobile phone in order to get toilet paper out of a public dispenser at a public restroom. They have the dispensers outside the doors in public restrooms, and you have to scan your face because it's still attached to your mobile device, but you either have to scan your face or scan your mobile device or both, and then it gives you the allotted amount. You get 4 squares, and consider yourself lucky. Whatever. They need their mobile devices, right? And for years, the number of mobile devices in use have gone up. They always go up. They go up quite rapidly. By the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, every single quarter. Except this quarter. Strangely, oddly, at a time when people need their money, when they need their phones in order to get to where they need to go just to get food, okay? To be able to survive, to go to school. Right now with schools closed in much of China, they're doing teleschool, and that's done through their phones. Keep in mind that they don't use computers nearly as much as we do. Their devices are mobile, and that's where pretty much all of their online and real-life activity happens is through their mobile devices. But this is the first time in forever that the number of mobile users dropped, and we're not talking about a small drop. We're talking about 21 million people, users, dropped as of last month compared to 3 months prior. Hasn't happened since 2010. What does that tell us? Does it mean that people are less reliant on phones? No. They are more reliant today than they were before. But it does tell us that certain things are happening that pertain to the coronavirus. And one of those things is that more people are dying than are being reported, because more people are sick than are being reported. There was a report, it came out 2 days ago, but the Daily Wire picked it up, I believe it was last night, that showed that in one funeral home alone, they received 5,000 urns, full urns, for burial. Keep in mind, that's more than allegedly have died, period, from the coronavirus in China as a nation. And yet one funeral home received 5,000 of them in one shipment. I don't know how many people have died. I pray for China. I know they might be our enemy, but they are hurting. Not only do they have to deal with the coronavirus, not only do they have to deal with poverty and authoritarianism and the Chinese Communist Party, but they have to deal with lies. And the Chinese people are not to blame. The Chinese Communist Party, absolutely. Blame them. They deserve it. And we should stop doing business with them altogether. And there should be a revolution and all this other stuff. And I'm sure that at this point YouTube is probably picking me up on the algorithm and telling the CCP and this video will be blocked. But we'll see. Anyway, yes, Dr. Gottlieb, don't trust the Chinese Communist Party. They're lying. Moving on, who else do we not like? Bruce Aylward. This is an interesting video. This gentleman is an advisor to the executive board for the World Health Organization. He's a part of the WHO. And I'm not going to play this one. I'm just going to describe it. I do encourage you to go to noqreport.com, knockreport.com, and find this story about him because it's crazy. Long story short, the World Health Organization, who is essentially controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, not the doctors per se, but the executives, the mouthpieces, the people that are making the decisions for the World Health Organization are essentially owned by the Chinese Communist Party. That's, again, man, I got a lot of episodes building up that I need to cover in the future. This is definitely one of them. But long story short is he was asked by a journalist, and they were doing a Skype call interview, and she asked him about trying to include Taiwan in the World Health Organization. Taiwan is not considered to be a nation, at least by the World Health Organization. They consider themselves to be a nation. We consider them to be a nation. But China, and the Chinese Communist Party, considers them to be part of China. And therefore, so does the World Health Organization. But it got so bad, not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't say. At first, he pretended not to hear the question. And then when there was an uncomfortable silence, the journalist asked him, "Sir, He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question." And she said, "Okay, well, I'll repeat it." He said, "You know what? Don't repeat it. Just move on to the next question." "What? Wait, I thought you didn't hear the question. Why do you want to move on?" And she said, "Well, I would really like to learn more about China." And he hung up on her. Right there. You see, in the video, you get to see him just reach over and doo-doo, the Skype hang-up tone. Long story short, they control the World Health Organization. They control who? So why is it that we're listening to them? Why is it that Google and YouTube and even Facebook, I believe, they're telling us to listen to the World Health Organization regarding COVID-19? The World Health Organization came up with the name COVID-19, and they transparently stated, look, we don't want there to be a stigma about China, so let's call it COVID-19, whatever that means. They've never done that before, okay? MERS was the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. They called it MERS because it was a respiratory syndrome that started in the Middle East, okay? Lyme disease started in Lyme. Connecticut, Vermont, someplace out east. Anyway, there is a naming protocol. What is the disease and where did it start? This should be called the Wuhan coronavirus, or as Dr. Ted Noel, my writer, calls it, the Wuhan flu, or the Wuhan virus, or even the Chinese coronavirus, something to that effect, because that is the proper naming protocol. There's nothing racist about it. It's not an attack on the Chinese people to call it what it is and where it's from. Instead, we're stuck with COVID-19, and if you were to ask anybody what the heck COVID-19 even means, nobody knows. I'm sure there's a scientific, I'm sure it's an acronym for something, but who cares? Nobody knows what it means, and it's sorry. I feel like Joe Biden backing up and saying, no, let's move on. Yeah, let's just move on. Let's go to Jesse Kelly, one of my favorite radio hosts, talk show hosts. He's now on the first new TV channel that I'll be talking about someday. Been on it a couple times. They seem to have a good grasp of what they're doing, but his tweet was, "Pro tip, land of the free," in quotes, doesn't mean hot dogs, baseball, and fireworks. It means freedom from government control. If you're fine with any politician ordering you to stay in your home, you've lost what it means to be American and what makes this country great. And he's absolutely right. Now, again, there's a difference between what he's saying, or what politicians are saying and what government is saying and what local quote-unquote leaders are saying as far as, stay home, stay safe, don't spread the disease any more than it needs to be, wash your hands, don't touch your face, all that good stuff. That's important. I'm not saying that we oppose that, but mandates, that's concerning because, again, not only does it affect the economy, not only does it impose as a blanket imposition on people when that might not necessarily need to be the case. More importantly, it does open the doors to authoritarianism. Right now, there's a big test, and we're failing. Not just we as a people, but we as our leaders are failing because they are trying to see how we react to being told you can't go here, you can't do this, you can't travel, stay at home, yada, 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 do this or else. There's a difference between saying do this because it's right and saying do this or else. And right now a lot of people are saying do this or else, and that's not a good thing. That's not very American at all. Changing gears to something that has never happened before and probably won't happen again. I agree with Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York, but just a little bit, and just on one little thing. Right now, President Trump had talked about maybe imposing a quarantine on New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, restricting travel. Basically, this is the center, the epicenter. Better way to put it is this is where the outbreak is most known and most concentrated, is in this tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, where a lot of people are being affected by this coronavirus. They've been infected, not just affected, they've been infected. But is it really a lot? Yeah, that's the question. Is it really a lot? So far, keep in mind, New York has 20 million people living in it, and about 55,000 people are known to have been infected. That sounds like a lot, right? But we're still talking about less than 0.3%. So about 3 out of every 1,000 people are infected. Again, I'm not downplaying that. I'm not saying that that's not a significant number of people. I'm just saying that is that really worth quarantining an entire state or an entire tri-state area? President Trump didn't think so. After talking about it, thinking about it, talking it over with the states themselves, talking it over with his advisors, he came to the conclusion that no, we're not going to quarantine them. We're just going to issue a travel advisory, which is good. Hey, that's good. Okay, travel advisory, not authoritarian. Travel advisory is, guys, we don't think you should do this. We're not going to do anything to necessarily stop you, but just know that we are strongly opposed to this. A strongly worded opposition. That's fine. Okay, give me 50 of those. We'll take them and read them, and some we'll listen to, some we won't. But when you start mandating that New Yorkers can't travel, that's where you get into trouble. That's where you get into authoritarianism, and that's where we get into un-Americanism. Easiest way to put it. Rhode Island has deployed the National Guard. Why? What are they doing? They're going door to door. Why? To look for New Yorkers. I know that sounds crazy, but it happened. It's happening. This isn't something that's been discussed. They're actually doing it. They're stopping everyone with a New York license trying to enter Rhode Island and imposing a mandatory 14-day quarantine on those people. They are also going door to door saying, do you have any New Yorkers in your house? Maybe we come search. No, they're not searching, but they are asking. They're going from door to door to door, knocking on them and asking, do you have any travelers from out of state? Are they from New York? They must be quarantined. I thank God I have not experienced this myself. I don't think I would be very happy. Not with the National Guard. I mean, they're just doing what they're being told. They're doing as instructed. But I definitely wouldn't be happy with the governor of Rhode Island. And Andrew Cuomo is not either. He is furious, and rightly so, in my opinion. Yes, he's a radical progressive Democrat, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. So in this case, he's right. And it is ridiculous that there is this unhinged response. Is New York in trouble? Absolutely. New Jersey, Connecticut, very dangerous. They should be willingly and proactively staying indoors, staying away from non-essential work. Should the place be closed down? I don't think so. I think that it does come down to the individuals. We need to be smart. We need to do it the proper way. Now, some will argue, as long as it's temporary, it's okay. Okay, fine. I agree that maybe in that situation, in those extreme cases, that maybe there does need to be a lockdown, but only if it's guaranteed to be for a short period of time. Otherwise, no, I don't want them. because they don't go away quickly. And what's left, the remnant of them, is often more dangerous than what originally happened. Okay? Look back at 9/11, when the terrorists took down the World Trade Centers, when they attacked the Pentagon, when Flight 93 crashed, thousands of Americans died. It was horrible. But we persevered as a nation. Except that we picked up the Patriot Act for years. And we picked up wars in Iran and Afghanistan, which technically, Iraq. Ooh, almost made a sound like an AOC mistake. We picked up a war in Iraq. Yeah, maybe it was a John Bolton mistake. Anyway, picked up a war in Iraq. And we're still technically, President Trump's trying to pull us out, but we're still in Afghanistan as we speak. Why? I don't know. Because terrorists flew planes into a building almost 20 years ago. That's why. And that's ridiculous. Well, guess what? Those remnants, those carryovers from tragedy are going to be even worse with COVID-19, the coronavirus, the Wuhan Chinese coronavirus flu, whatever you want to call it. Things are going to get worse. This is authoritarianism on steroids, and what we're seeing here is an example of this. It's a concern that we need to address, and thankfully we do have a way to be able to address it. But first, I want to talk about a show that I listened to earlier, again on the GK Podcast Network. We had Pastor Sam Jones on Conversations with Jeff Dornik, and he discussed, you guessed it, the coronavirus, and actually the response to the coronavirus. Very similar, very inspiring to what we're talking about today. I tried not to steal any of their thunder or what they were talking about, but man, it was good. And so I strongly recommend listening to that. They were talking about when governments shut down churches, and Pastor Sam Jones, his church is being told he can't gather. And I'm not going to spoil it. You got to listen to the show to see his recourse, but it's interesting stuff. Let me skip that one for now. We'll come back to that time permitting. Similar note to what Jeff and Pastor Sam were talking about earlier. An article that actually got me so riled up over the weekend that I had to take my day off and write about it. Quote-unquote journalists blaming evangelicals for coronavirus woes is modern leftism in a nutshell. Let's go to the visual. This was the original headline. It says this is in New York Times. Yes, that New York Times. The road to coronavirus hell was paved by evangelicals. The headline was changed to "The religious right's hostility to science is crippling our coronavirus response." Now keep in mind, the author, Catherine Stewart, wrote a book titled "The Power Worshippers: Inside the Dangerous Rise of Religious Nationalism." We're talking about authoritarianism here, but there's another concern that we have to address, and that is basically turning the Judeo-Christian faith, turning evangelicals into the bad guys. This is not unique to the coronavirus. This has been happening very much so for decades, and it's been ramped up over the past few years, and very recently it's been ramped up to its highest point yet, where essentially people who are very annoyed by the faith have become militant. It's no longer that they just, they're going to be atheists or whatever, and they're going to do their thing. It's beyond that now. Now, they're not just doing their thing. They're wanting to make sure that nobody does their thing, including us. So blaming us for anything and everything, including the coronavirus. In reality, what they're saying is in her article, she's talking about how the president is anti-science and that his response to the coronavirus has been driven by evangelicals like Alex Azar and Ben Carson, and that makes it bad. Look, just because they're evangelicals doesn't mean that their advice is bad. Dr. Ben Carson is a doctor. He was a neurosurgeon. He does believe in science. He didn't just go out there and start cutting into people's brains and pray, oh, Lord, please guide my hands. He did pray, I'm sure. Don't get me wrong. But he had training. He had science. He knew what he was doing, and he knows what he's doing now. And the president knows what he's doing with the response to the coronavirus. It's not some, oh my gosh, those darn evangelical hillbillies are gonna make the president do something dumb. That's what a lot of these people think of us. Okay, a lot of the left look at us as just evangelical hillbillies. We got our guns, we've got our Bible, and so we have no intellect, we have no understanding of the world. We're just ruining it for the rest of them. Don't get me started. Keep in mind, these are the people. These are the people who claim scientifically speaking that there isn't just men or women. There's all these various genders and sexes and whatever. I don't know if there's anything more anti-science than denying biology, denying that a man is, a man, or that a woman is a woman. So be it. Oh, the peoples. Grab a drink and put up this great tweet by Jeremy Boring. Now, those of you who don't know Jeremy probably know his partner, Ben Shapiro. Jeremy is the co-founder, the non-Shapiro, in the group that founded the Daily Wire. And he, in response to Alex Berenson was saying, one forecast I'm sure of, scientists will be trying to sort out the truth about COVID-19, how many died, how it spread, what worked to stop it, for years. And even then, people will fight over the facts, because somehow this illness has become as politicized as everything else. Yes, of course it's politicized, because this is America in 2020. Everything gets politicized. Okay, sneakers get politicized. Okay, and of course this will be too. But Jeremy's response: how do you not politicize an unprecedented in modern history closing of the economy and stripping away of human liberties based on limited data? 4 million unemployed in less than 10 days, plus tens of millions restricted, plus massive increase in government dependence equals political. And he's absolutely right. It has been politicized. It needs to be politicized, and we need to, as conservatives, as patriots, as Americans, we need to fight against the political Armageddon. That's the only other way to put it. Political Armageddon that is on its way. One more tweet before we get into the final story of the day. Buddy George Papadopoulos. If you are unfamiliar with George, he was part of the Trump campaign in 2015. Got arrested, was attacked by the deep state for stuff that really didn't deserve jail time, but he did spend, it wasn't much. I think he spent 14 days or 10 days or something like that, but still, just the sheer fact that he is now a felon is a joke. It's ridiculous, because what he quote unquote didn't match anything that I think patriotic Americans would consider to be a crime, but whatever. George says, to recap the activities of the mayors and governors of the 3 largest cities over the last 2 days. Chicago wants to arrest you for jogging. LA wants to monitor your movements via your phone. New York has been lying about ventilators in stock that people desperately need. This is big government, and he's just like everybody else that I've talked about today. He is absolutely right. For those who are unfamiliar with what Andrew Cuomo said about ventilators, he said, we need more, and then somebody discovered, hey, here's a stockpile of ventilators. And President Trump was like, hey, they've got plenty of ventilators, why are they asking for more? And Cuomo said, no, that's not what I was saying. We do need more. The reason we haven't put out these ventilators is because we're waiting for the apex to hit. We're waiting for it to, in about 21 days, it should hit the apex of coronavirus hospitalization, and that's when we're going to unleash all these ventilators. But we still need more. It was a bogus bogus response to a gotcha question, and he failed miserably. It was embarrassing for him. So, and don't even get me started with LA wanting to monitor your movements. It's a mirror. Oh gosh. Yeah, I'm not even going to go there because it will make me get loud. That's how infuriating it is. Long story short, they want to track you and see if you're being good citizen, good Communist Party citizen. I'm sorry, good Los Angeles citizen who's not going where you're not supposed to go, and they're going to track you by your phones to make sure that you're not sneaking off to the gym or the beach or the whatever. It's ridiculous. Last but not least, Glenn Beck. I don't know what it is about him that there's this odd, it's almost creepy how things that come to my mind, things that I think and my concerns, he seems to echo them. And he does such a better job than me at it too. It's kind of annoying how how he's able to break it down better. I guess his years of experience on television and radio have enabled him to see the things that I see, but see them better than I do. So be it. I don't mind as long as there's people out there who are seeing it. And what he's seeing, this video, I recommend watching it. It's a 9-minute video. I'm not going to play it now. You can play it yourself. But big government using coronavirus pandemic to secure more ... more, what was it? More...
But this virus is...
more control. Duh. Okay, yeah, he's talking about how government is using the coronavirus to get more control. We happened to make a similar video just the other day, basically saying the same thing, defending freedoms and fighting off authoritarianism in a post-coronavirus America. Both videos, strongly recommend watching them, getting an understanding of what's happening in America today and what we need to fight, because we're not just fighting against the coronavirus. We're not just fighting against economic turmoil. We're fighting against what happens when the dust settles, and what's already happening today. And as I've described this entire show, authoritarianism is the long-term freedom killer that America doesn't need, that most Americans don't want, and that many politicians are imposing on us today as a result of the coronavirus, and it's only going to get worse. This is why we are forming the American conservative movement, something that we've been talking about for a little while. I've talked about it for over a year, but it really took talking to Mr. Jeff Dornik at GateKeepers Online and some other people about taking this now, pushing forward. We felt the need for it, but it wasn't until the coronavirus as a catalyst for us to say now's the time to spring into action. We're seeing what's happening. We're seeing what's going to happen. We have a very good idea of what can possibly take place, and we know that it's not going to be good. We know that we need to fight it. So we're coming up with ideas. Ideas to educate the people, to rally the people together in a way that empowers them to be able to fight what's going to come down, what's going to be popular. Keep in mind, this is the unfortunate part, is that do I think that most Americans are conservatives and patriots? Yes, I do. And I can describe why, perhaps in a future show, why I believe this. But strange things like the coronavirus, like the economic collapse, like the fear and the uncertainty that is pervasive in America today, these are the types of things that can lead to even patriotic Americans asking for help, asking for too much help, perhaps becoming dependent on government to bail us out, to give us hope, to take more security. To take more freedom in exchange for security. We want security, and unfortunately a lot of people are willing to give up freedom as a result. We need to stop that. Somebody has to, because they're not going to like a lot of these people that are calling for more control, more calling on government to save us. They're not going to like the result. I don't want to fault them because it's understandable in these uncertain times to want that. But be careful what you wish for, especially when it comes to government. And I'm not talking about just Capitol Hill or the White House. I'm talking about governors. I'm talking about city council members, mayors, state legislators, judges even. There's going to be a multitude of pushes being made to take away our freedoms, to impose more government control, to quote-unquote help people by doing things that technically hurt them. Yes, there's going to be people who are starving, who are homeless. There already were before the coronavirus. But there's going to be a great need for us to defend our freedoms and protect this American way of life that we've participated in building. We're part of a nearly quarter millennium experiment, and that experiment could after so many years, decades, over 2 centuries of success, that experiment could crash and burn in a very short period of time as a result of the coronavirus. Not because it's going to kill millions of Americans, not because it's going to create an economic downturn that we will never be able to recover from. No. The real killer is going to be what some consider to be the solution, which is putting more power in the hands of government and allowing government to have more control over our lives, allowing government to take care of us. Because once government starts taking care of you, they want to take care of you forever. Okay? They don't want you to be just partially beholden. Yes, I know there's conservatives out there, the old Reagan concept of we just want to give you a leg up so you can get off of welfare. That's great, and I know that a lot of Americans will, if they do accept help today for their business, for their jobs, for their families, they do accept help today, they will gladly trade it back in when the time comes when they can go back to work and be self-sustaining. That's what makes America great. But a lot of people, perhaps millions, won't. They're not going to jump up and down and, oh yay, factories open, let's go back to work and stop getting the government check. We need, as an American conservative movement, to make sure that as many people as possible do escape from the bondage that they may or may not even be aware of government dependency. We need to make sure that government, whatever rights they take from us today, that they give them back in time when the coronavirus is done. And if they try to take more, we have to be there to stop them. That's why I'm very pleased. I'm hoping to eventually talk to Mr. Beck about this and many, many others, people like you. If you are interested in learning more, we have a temporary site up there right now at AmericanConservativeMovement.com. Right now, when I say temporary site, it actually just points back to a page on Rucker Report. But eventually, hopefully this week, we'll have a real website up. And once we get it up and get our social going and get everything situated and file our IRS tax paperwork and whatever, we'll get everything up and running. And we have some great ideas. I can't wait to talk to you about them. And we're going to come up with more. So, in the meantime, go to AmericanConservativeMovement.com, and there's a little form at the bottom where you can fill out just to get information. You're not pledging to your allegiance. You're not pledging to send us $10,000 a week. That would be nice. But no, it's just for more information for right now. And when that information comes, we'll be happy to discuss it more with you. In the meantime, stay frosty. It's getting kind of crazy out there with the coronavirus, and we need to be. That's the best way to put it. We need to be cognizant of what can happen, so that we can stop the bad from coming. And when I say we, I'm talking about we the people, okay? We can't rely on government to limit itself. We can't rely on politicians to hold back their power grab at a time when we're most vulnerable. It is going to have to come from Americans, from this movement, from the American conservative movement. And we hope that you'll join us. This has been episode 2 of the Rucker Report. I am your humble host, JD Rucker, and we will see you next time.